Well, hi Anna. Welcome to this podcast of Business Unzipped. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And the joy of technology means that we can actually do this from literally the other side of the world because you are in Sydney, Australia, where it is
Yes.
9 p.m. and here it is midday in a not so sunny UK. How cool is that?
Isn't that amazing? Like we can talk in one day, we can talk to all the people, around the world. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's so good. It really is. It makes a huge difference in terms of connecting
Yeah.
with other people. Right, let's get straight to it. So, I read on your LinkedIn, I thought it was really funny. You take people from a sofapreneur to a solopreneur, and I absolutely love that. What made you write that?
Because very often we just have this idea that we want to try something and we just sit and do nothing. And we just never progress. We never take action. We never move forward. And we just stay sofapreneurs. So we are sitting on our couch, cozy and comfortable, dreaming, which is which is okay. There's nothing bad about it. But it's, the the difference between dream and goal is the execution. So that's the bridge. So many people never build that bridge and just stay in the dream stage, staying on their sofas and couches. Whereas I encourage people to start taking action. I support people to take action and start building that bridge and bridging that gap and become a solopreneur within 6 months. So yeah, that's the whole idea.
I love that so much. So that is your business. You are a coach and you help people turn their dreams into reality, essentially.
Exactly. So there are a few options here. Either people who are still in corporate and just want to exit but feel stuck, or usually it's stuck in analysis paralysis, or in that particular stage of fear, or in that multiple ideation stage, and they can't pick and choose one. And we build a strategy and build a plan and I support them along the way within 6 months with a niche offer, clarity, and that sort of stuff, and brand building and positioning. Or there are people who started already a particular service-based business, a consultancy or coaching, but they still haven't made any money. They're stuck. And it means they're still in solopreneur stage because until you start making money in your business, until you start making sales, it's still a hobby. It's still an idea. It's still not a business. So yeah, usually two types of clients.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? And actually, there's a big difference from going to employment in particular to self-employment. And there's a
Huge.
lot of sort of corporate habits that we pick up along the way. So, how do people sort of best prepare for that transition? Because it can be quite a culture shock.
It is. It is. And I would say the first one, and I know some people would say, oh, don't plan, just dive into it, just jump straight into it, just take that leap. I would suggest if you spend some time in corporate, and especially if you got to quite senior level, I would suggest take a very sensible approach and start planning your exit. So build a plan where you want to be in the next, whatever, 12 months, 6 months, 18 months, whatever goal you set up for yourself. Start saving, I call it runway fund, right? Never just jump into that because you're not gonna make money in the first 6 to 9 months. Even if you make some, it's yeah, it's good. It's amazing. It's not by default. It's just more of a exception than rule. So build that runway fund, build a strategy, exit strategy, and start a very gradual exit approach from mentally and physically and technically start building it. And once you're ready, once you saved money for whatever 6 9 months of your living expenses, your runway fund, and you've done some already steps, I would suggest validate the idea before you exit, if possible. Be clear on what you want to do. Ideally, try to make some sales, because there is the business, when you sell your service, if you can work with someone who can support you along the way to give you that clarity, to give you that confidence, to give you that empowerment and support, if you can. That would be the best approach. And then once you take that leap, that's where you need to start training yourself out of those mental habits. First, no one's going to tell you what and when needs to be done. So there are no SOPs, standard operating
Yes.
procedures. There are no guidelines. There is nothing. You figure it out as you go. That's how it works. You build something that was not built before because even like let's say if I support you or the coach supports you along the way, it's your business. It's still your business and you still have to do the work with the support ideally, but it's still your steps. So, you need to be okay to live with uncertainty. You need to be okay to live, to be the owner. And, you are the ultimate responsible and accountable person. It's all on you. That's why it's solopreneurship, right? Especially if you start just one person business and no one's going to tell you how, no one's going to tell you when. So that kind of probably say lack of defined steps, lack of clarity initially, and a lack of structure and uncertainty, that's the biggest things. I think that was the biggest realizations for me when I kind of changed my trajectory from corporate career and pretty senior level to becoming a solopreneur.
I completely agree with that because there is no trodden path. So you're making your own way, and no two businesses are the same. And I think one of the biggest things for me that I find is learning what works, but also learning what doesn't work and being okay with taking a step back and saying, okay, I've gone down there, that hasn't worked, let's try another path. That scares people quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because I think we, especially again, if you've been in corporate for quite some time and you're pretty senior and you had teams and everything was, kind of structured and clear, I think you measure your success by the result, like what you've achieved today, tomorrow. Whereas I think in the first, especially 12 months of solopreneurship, it's important to measure your success by whether you showed up in the first place and whether you've done the input. So whether you've showed up and whether you've done the work. So not whether, let's say YouTube, not whether you've got monetized within 3 months or
Yeah.
4 months, but whether you've done the video, whether you've written the script, whether you showed up in at the camera, whether you've done the work. I think once you change that mindset, you actually set yourself up for more success than rather than you just chase the result because the result will not come as fast as you want. So it will take longer, it will be harder, and you just need to be prepared to measure those KPIs slightly differently.
Yeah, can't be financially driven, not in the first 12 months for sure.
100%.
Okay, so I think that is great in terms of the business aspect, but I think there's a bigger shift in terms of that sort of mental attitude, and it can feel quite lonely, and you don't have that sort of soundboard, you don't have that peer connection. So, what's the biggest takeaway you can get from that mentally? Because also, I find that you can't necessarily always rely on friends and family either because they don't necessarily understand that non-employment traditional route.
Absolutely. So I would say, and as I said, having a coach or having someone, sorry, I'm just trying to build the light a bit better. So having someone along the way first of all, who've done what you're trying to do, that's important. Um, that would be a huge support. Like for me, I didn't have anyone at the start. And I just couldn't find a person who walked the talk, like who've done what I want to do and was 3 or 4 steps ahead of me. So I either would find people who are in the same boat, who hasn't figured it out yet, or I would find people who like coaches, doing millions and millions of dollars per month, which I kind of don't need because I need someone 3, 4 steps ahead.
Hmm.
And I couldn't figure out anyone. And I struggled a lot initially because everything I had to figure out by myself and it was really hard. So I found a way eventually, and then I invested in quite a few various people. I had a ghostwriter, I had a LinkedIn person, I had another coach, another program. So all of those things. So ideally, if you can find someone who are like 3, 4 steps ahead of you, who can guide you along the way. You will not feel lonely. You will feel empowered. You will have that accountability who will support you along the way. And you will have clarity because someone will, give that structure that you really need in the first 6 months, with the brand building, with the content, with the niching, with the offer, with pricing, with everything that you might need. Secondly, try to connect with as many people as possible. Entrepreneurs, people tend to kind of cling to what's comfortable and what's they used. So they keep talking to their colleagues in corporate, which is okay, but you're building the new identity. So if you want to build it faster and with a bit more joy along the way, start hanging out with people who again have done the same or who a few steps ahead. Try to build as many connections as possible and literally jump on the call with them. So that actually helped me massively in terms of my mental health to talk to as many people as possible. And then it stops being lonely because you just share the stories, even if it's just, and you learn something along the way, little bits and pieces, and you just get, you don't feel lonely, like a simple, put it that way.
Mm.
You understood, you feel connection, you feel like you're building your network and your crew, along the way. And number three, I always say if you have a supportive partner along the way, it helps massively as well. So
Yes.
it's, and I don't know how it feels not to have supportive partner, but I know talking to different people, they say, Anna, it's a completely different story if you don't have supportive partner. It's much
Yeah.
harder. So
Yeah.
if you do have supportive partner, and I do, and I'm lucky with that, but he's my, you know, I don't know how many times I wanted to give up in the first 6 months. I can't even tell you. Because I'm so driven, I'm so focused on the result, and I'm so driven in terms of I want to get there by, particular time frame. And patience is definitely not my strength. And I wanted to give up so many times, and I had and I have very high levels of self-confidence and self-trust, but still, yet it was hard. And my partner would be just my husband would be like, nope, we're not giving up. We keep going. We're not giving up. Get your shit together, and we keep going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they do actually say either have a supportive partner or don't have one.
True.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your journey then? What made you sort of make this transition? What did you do before?
So I was working in corporate finance. So I spent 15 years in corporate finance and I got to pretty senior level to kind of head of commercial finance, head of FP&A, financial planning analysis in big corporates. I used to have a team of 12 looking after 1 billion portfolio in one of the biggest companies in Australia. And um, look, the joy of corporate life. I was constantly facing the same problem. So I saw the pattern. And it's very important to be so aware and self-aware and carefully observe what's happening, with you and around you. So I saw the pattern. I was constantly reaching that ceiling in wherever I go. I would feel like I would outgrow the environment, outgrow my boss, outgrow my peers. I would always want more freedom, more dynamics, more forward-looking approach, something fast-paced, something where I can do things with no limitations, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um, yes. So, and I was constantly put in that box. So wherever you go, there are rules. There are rules of entrepreneurship, there are rules of corporate life, there are rules of family. Like there are rules. There is whether written, not written, but there are kind of preconceived, predefined rules. And you are either okay with those, or you have to compromise your values, yourself. You have to shrink yourself to fit in. Um, my motto for life is that I'm not gonna shrink myself to make, someone feel better or to fit in. That's just not who I am, and I've never been like that since I've been a little girl. So I either belong or I'm out. But fitting in is just not my concept. So just generally. So when realized that I had to fit in again and again and again, it just started to I started to suffocate. And funny enough, the higher up you go, the less freedom you get because you
Yeah.
either belong or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and many people can't understand because it's like, when I was an analyst or like junior analyst, I actually felt less constrained and, put in a box than when I got to kind of 250K job per year. So yeah, that was an interesting thing. And when I started to kind of constantly get into that pattern, I started to get pretty unhappy in terms of, I don't like it. I just don't like it. And I started looking for a job every 2 years. And getting a job when you're at that level gets harder and harder because the pyramid gets
The
narrower and narrower.
pool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about, connections and network. And especially I'm an immigrant. I was not born in Australia. I'm Ukrainian. So I came to Australia when I was 27. So I didn't study here. Yes, I built some network and connections, but not as if I was studying here, right? So for me, it
Yeah.
was getting harder and harder, and like I knew I wanted to do coaching because I've done it for quite some time. I was coaching big teams, I was coaching people along the way, not formally but informally, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. So I knew it needs to be some kind of that model I want to do in my life. And then one day, my husband said, "Anna, you need to do something of your own because if you don't, you keep constantly you will be facing the same problem all the time. Like it's the same, it's a recurrent pattern. It's becoming recurrent pattern." And
Yes.
I'm like, but I had this limiting belief. I had this limiting belief that I can't be entrepreneur. I've never been surrounded by entrepreneurs. My parents and my family always worked for someone. I come from a very well-educated family, but it was never entrepreneurial spirit in our family. So I just had that limiting belief that, I know I can only work for someone. Like that's just who I am. And that's how I see kind of my path and success. And then I just until I realized that it's a limiting belief, it's a thought. It's not a proven fact. It's not something that's written. It's not karma or anything like that. It's something that you just get used to that thought. Something that was instilled in you or whatever. Doesn't matter. But you can choose a different thought and you can try. And I just realized when I realized that I said, you know what? I need to try. I need to try now because if I don't do it now, I will not do it. Like I will not do it. I'm not getting younger. I'm getting older. We all are. And I'm a mom of two, and I'm 38 right now. So I started doing that when I was 36, 37. I had 2-year-old child back then. So he's 4 now. And, I need to do it now. While I'm still young, I have lots of energy. I need to try. And I realized that I'd rather be a failure than I'd be a coward. So I can't let fear control my life. So I can try and not get to success, my definition of success in business that I've set for myself, and that's okay. But at least I know I've done everything I could. I give myself 2, 3 years to get to where I want to be. But I can't just say, you know what, I wanted to try, but I never did. That's the worst for me.
I completely agree. And I really resonate with that as well, which goes back to my point that you have to choose who you talk to because it is not a known, we are brought up to learn to go into employment, and that's the path that most people know. So when you do something different, sometimes can people can portray their fears onto you, and you sort of get that sort of visceral reaction where they go, oh, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, at least you can get another job, or oh, okay, how's that going to work in practice? And it doesn't sit right with them, and actually that can bring some doubt into you, which is why I completely agree with your point that if you do want to go down this path, you need to rebuild your circle of connections to those that think the same way that you're going to be thinking, and find yourself a coach who can lift you up and support you and motivate you, and sort of keep those thoughts alive so you don't let the fear sort of consume you. So I really resonate with that.
Yeah, because you've done something similar.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so I'm sort of early on in my journey, but yeah, again, coming from corporate, Um, I've reached I don't like the word ceiling because I could go higher, but like you say, the pool gets so narrow that you end up having to wait for someone to leave before you can get recognized and move on. And my dreams and ambitions are far bigger than my organization can offer me. And that is fine. And I've given it my everything and I absolutely love it. But now is the time to see what else I've got, which is a lot more than what's happening right now. Yeah, it's exciting and it's scary and yeah, there is a big element of risk to it. But if, like you say, if you don't take the risk, you're going to end up with regret instead.
Exactly, exactly. And I don't want
Yeah.
like even with regret is the worst thing. And I don't know, have you read the book Five Regrets of Dying by Bronnie Ware?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. So number one regret that people have is that I wish I lived the life true to myself, not true to others. So, you know, I don't wanna have those regrets. And yeah, no, people say, there are various definitions that you can work on that you can still live the life okay and still not build that regret. That's fine. But we wouldn't have had that book then, in the
yeah.
first place. So there are
Yeah.
things people regret when they're dying, and I just don't want this to be one of those things. So
I know. And actually, you touched on a point there. And my good friend Susie Ramrib, she's an author, and she talks about, particularly as women in the corporate world, we're almost sort of taught to be grateful for what we've got, but we also live other people's dreams because we're not quite sure where we want to go. If someone says, "Oh, you should go for that promotion next," and you sort of go, "Oh, okay. Oh, that'd be great." And we're almost like grateful for that, but that might not necessarily be what we want. But
yeah,
because it's there and being offered, we kind of go with it. So it is really important to think about what genuinely fills your cup. What are your values? What do you want to be? What is your legacy going to be? Don't live through someone else's eyes.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, doing that
Mm.
inner work first.
Yeah. So now that you're into your coaching and you get to see other people sort of flourish, what is the most fulfilling part for you to sort of see someone sort of take that leap?
The most fulfilling part is when people take action. So I always say the moment you realize, you know what, I'm doing it now, I think that's 60-70% of success. Because majority of people, like, to get to that point from no to yes, it's just the hardest. Once you said yes, I'm gonna do it, everything gets a bit easier. We build a plan, it's an execution strategy, it's okay. It's more of a like tactics, right? But that strategically big yes to say that's hard. And for many people, it's still hard. And I talked to so many people, like over the last, I don't know, 10 days, I spoke to 20 people, solopreneurs who are either starting or thinking about starting or started and can't make money. And many of them just sit there, do nothing. So they just sit there, do nothing, with fear, with procrastination, with, saying, oh, you know what? Well, I've tried everything. Nothing is working. But have you really everything? And once we start looking deeper, yeah, that fear is actually a huge one. And it's sad because I never thought that it's so huge until I started
Yes.
dealing with working with people. And it's
Mm.
not just touching that leap, moving from one kind of lifestyle to another lifestyle. It's in everything, in the all life actions and choices that people are making. Whether to get out of toxic relationship or stay in toxic relationship, whether say no to the toxic boss and start looking for another job, even if it's staying in the corporate. But people tend to come up with so many excuses why not, rather than just finding a ways why yes. And it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it
And
is.
yeah, and the thing is that it takes a huge amount of awareness to understand, you know what? This is not serving me anymore. Like this is not serving, that's it, that's enough. And I'm moving. People can tolerate a lot of shit. So like that's just And it has to do with the, how we are raised, how we are brought up. um that we just, it's okay, patience, and that people are getting more and more okay settling down with mediocrity and
Yeah,
pain and that comfortable discomfort. That's how I say, like they don't like it, but that's okay. What else can I do? And it's sad.
that is
So
really sad. But I think that initial feeling of discomfort, it does ease off after a while. You just have to get through. It's a bit like the analogy of getting in a hot bath. You know, when you first get in and you're like, oh, it's a bit hot, but then actually you settle in, you go, oh, actually, this is lovely. This is really nice. And I think it's similar to that. And we are still quite traditional in our views. It's a bit like project management in the olden days when it was, your concept and then you work through and then you almost 6 months down the line, you have your big bang and there's your project. And now we know that that doesn't necessarily work. And then we
yeah,
move
it's
to sort of agile. So you do your sprint training. So you go back every 2 weeks and you look at how you're doing, you make those adjustments. And I think, that we need to do that in terms of reflective practice as well. So when we're going through our journey, to be a solopreneur, rather than waiting for that big bang, actually every couple of weeks, just reflect what's happened in the last 2 weeks. What action have I taken? What have I achieved? It might not be of monetary value, but actually, you've worked on your brand, you've worked on your connections, you've been to X amount of networking events. And I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah, we don't. And even I still, like, honestly, frankly speaking, I had this conversation with my husband yesterday, and I had like a big week last week, and I had so many calls. And last week I signed my client, but I haven't signed a new one, but I signed a returning one. So I had a client coming back to me with a different kind of goal now, working actually on building her business plan. So she wants to leave corporate. So before, a year ago, we worked on securing her a well-paid job in corporate, but now she realized it's now the time to start building her own dream. So now she returned, and I signed her up last week, and she paid and everything. And I had so many conversations with so many people, and I got like four amazing testimonials, and I, had so many thank yous and so many connections, and I've done so much value, and I attended a couple of events and everything. And I was like, I was saying to my husband, you know what? I just feel like I wasted this whole week. Like, I haven't even signed any more new clients. And he's like, really? But how about that? And it's like the list goes on. So it's tough. Like, seeing every single achievement as a dollar achievement is wrong. Like,
Yes.
it's wrong. And it's an area for growth, I think, for many ambitious people. Like, it's definitely an area for growth for me. So I'm becoming more, I focus more now. I'm changing my mentality, not just seeing the output, but also focus on the input. Have I spoken to X number of prospects? Have I done this number of posts? Have I done that number of YouTube scripts? It's about, have I done enough from my side? What I can control. So
Yeah.
because that's what you can control. So it's a huge thing. Just focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So, what I always finish by asking someone or my guest to give advice to the listeners. And it is such a big shift thinking about venturing out into the world on your own. It is scary and it is a massive risk. So, what is like the one piece of like unconventional advice you would give to someone looking to start their sofapreneur to solopreneur?
I would suggest take action. Take action today. Take action now. If you feel like you can't you're scared, get someone along the way with you who will help you to take that action. If needed, pay for it. Save, I don't know, a few $1,000s and get that person who will help you, who will brainwash you to take action.
And to be honest, even saving the money to prepare for that is the first action, right? They've got a plan
100%.
and they're working towards it.
Yeah, it's a huge one. It becomes real.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I love that. What's next for you, Anna?
Well, I'm still in the trenches, you know. It's been a year since I left corporate. It's been a year since I've built my business. I got the foundations right. I pivot a few times throughout that year. So it's about building that still momentum to get to the level when I'm fully booked. And then when I'm getting to that point when I'm fully booked and I can't take any more clients, I can think about scaling. I have big plans in terms of my coaching practice because I absolutely love having that impact, positive impact on people's lives. Like it's just, I definitely know that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's currently a combination of high performance coaching and business mentoring, and it brings me so much joy. Obviously, I started and I made my first money with my first clients as a career coach and life coach. So helping people build the lives where they feel unstuck and can thrive and achieve those, joyful work-life integration between all aspects. That's how I started, but then I pivot into more business mentoring and high performance coaching because people started asking me, Anna, how can you help us get there where you've gotten in terms of business? And that's how I actually now define my offer. That's what I do and helping people bridge that gap. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. And then later on, I want to build my community of my 1,000 people, and have a community and then do all the crazy stuff for those people, masterminds, coaching sessions with me, potentially retreats. Like that's what I want to do. That's my dream.
I love that so much. And who do you want to work with? Who's your ideal client?
Yeah, so my ideal client is it's not defined by demographics, it's more defined by psychographics. So these are the
Yeah.
people who love to move and love to see the results. So people come to me for results. Don't come to me for fluff and for healing. They come to me, Anna, can you help me to get from point A to point B in the way that I'm still aligned to my values, in the way that I don't lose myself, but I move fast. So this is the kind of the clientele that I get. So they are high achievers, high performers, but they want to be aligned to who they are and their inner voice and their values. So usually it's millennials, between 29 to 45. Usually people who've seen quite a bit of life already, and then what's next. I'm not getting them. So they are not, unhappy. They are okay. They're pretty happy, but they know they can get from good to great.
Yeah, they just want a bit more.
Yeah, a bit more. That's exactly right. That's my client.
Love it, love it. And last thing I wanted to mention, because I saw that you posted it earlier, is any coach who doesn't have a coach, we should question them. So, and I think
Yeah,
that is absolutely spot on. You practice what you preach. You're always striving for more, and then your clients are also doing the same.
exactly. Exactly. That's true.
The sky is the limit. I will link your website and your contact details in the bio for anyone who wants to get in touch with you. But I absolutely love this conversation. Thank you for all of the advice and yeah, just talking to us about your journey.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Jim.